Welcome, 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 one and all, to another episode of Pathetic, the podcast. The gang is all here. We have been around the world, the guys on this podcast. Before we get into everything else, please again like, subscribe. Our link tree is in the corner. Please tell a friend. We are going strong here. We are like 60 episodes in at this point. We are rocking and rolling, growing this thing. Teddy, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great, Mike. It's good to be back. I can't wait until training camps open for football, and then we get on a weekly schedule, maybe twice a week. Because it's just been too long. But we're trying to enjoy the summer. It's been great so far.
Yeah, the summer always goes fast, right? It's already, honestly, you got to think about it. It's almost over, right? We have July, we have August, and then all of a sudden the fall hits. But you know what fall means? It's football.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that, man.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I try to let summer last as long as it possibly can. I try to go day by day. My wife's got the calendar booked all the way out through August, end of August at this point. With everything else, I'm like, just tell me what I'm doing tomorrow because I don't need to know. I don't want to think about what's going on at the end of August when it's summer's over, it starts getting cold again. Yep. Not what I'm interested in. I like to let summer last as long as possible because you only get so much summer in the Northeast here that you don't get to enjoy it for as long as other parts of the country and other parts of the world do. So when you get that 2 or 3 month stretch of really nice weather, you gotta milk it for everything it's worth. So, But I want to start today with a couple of recaps. Teddy, you went on your nice little cruise. Any highlights from there? Anything noteworthy you want to share there? I will share a little bit about my trip to England. And Jeff, if you want to spend some time on what you've been working on there in Charlotte, you certainly can as well.
Laying out by my pool and doing nothing. That's all I got doing out here. So
nice. Well, that's awesome. So, but Teddy, any notable things that happened on the cruise that you want to share with the audience here?
Yeah, it was a 7-day cruise to Bermuda. It was on the newest Norwegian ship, the Aqua, which was humongous. It was really nice. The rooms were great. I wasn't crazy about the ship only because it didn't have enough seating areas for like the buffet stuff like that. The food was great. Charlie, my son-in-law, and I played golf at Turtle Hill. It was a really challenging par 3 course. I was just saying before the show started to you guys, if you weren't right in the middle of the fairway, you were down a ravine, and it was cart path only. And it was like 85 degrees with a humidity factor of 7,000. And I had a lot of the balls there just went down the ravine, and I can see them. And I said, I'm just keeping them there. But other than getting off the ship and leaving a suitcase underneath the bed, and now waiting for Norwegian to say they found it. And my wife, like every day, did Norwegian contact you? Believe me, when they do, I will tell you.
Yeah.
Okay. She goes, am I going to need to call them? All right, calm down. All right, calm down. But it was great. There's nothing like cruising with 3 little kids, just making you insane, and But it was really nice. And I know you had a great vacation also. I saw a lot of pictures. I want to hear about that.
Yeah. So it was a whirlwind week in London. We had the 3 hottest days in British history while we were there.
I saw that.
Which is like the weather records there go back to like the 1600s. So it's like 500 years of weather. It's been the hottest 3 days. Of course, when I show up there, and the air conditioning is spotty at best over there. So it was pretty warm. Not anything crazy. It wasn't as humid as it normally is around here, so it wasn't as bad. But without air conditioning, it definitely sucks. Walking around to a lot of places. I will say the food there was surprisingly good. You could get pretty much anything you would want there in terms of food style. Really good Italian food, really good Thai food that was there. They had all these different food markets that we went to at all different things. The fish and chips obviously were out of control good. I will say my favorite two places I went to were the two bars that we ended up going to a bunch of nights. One is called Bunga 90s. It's like Cowabunga. It's literally like you time travel back to the 90s into this place. It's all retro themed. It's got all this 90s memorabilia. You walk into the place, it looks like a Blockbuster Video when you walk in. And then when it's your time to go in, you walk in through the Pepsi machine, and it's like a time machine in there, and you walk out and you walk down these stairs down like a 90s staircase with like all the pictures of like Urkel and the Golden Girls and all this stuff walking down the stairs. And you walk in, and it's just this 90s themed bar, and it's a karaoke bar, and all they were doing was everyone was singing 90s songs all day long.
That's awesome.
It was so much fun. All the drinks were like insanely sweet, like a 90s club drink. It was just like they had like all these different shots and everything else. So that was a lot of fun. And then the horror themed sports bar we went to called Bloodsport.
That?
Out of control. We went there Saturday night for the England game. You couldn't get into the place until after the England game ended, but it was still all the soccer hooligans were in there. It was so much fun to see them. Like one guy was just stumbling around. He dropped half his beer on our table, like left half his beer there, and we were trying to find him to tell him to get his beer. He already had another beer in his hand by the time we saw him. And he did it 2 more times on top of that. So there were 3 half beers on our table, and he had like 2 beers in his hand. So it was just out of control. But
sounds great.
That 90s theme sounds like a really, really good idea. And I'm surprised. I'm sure there's one in America, but I've never seen it or heard of it. That sounds like such a good idea because you're going to get. How many times do we talk about how great the 90s was? Like the TV shows, the music.
To do it. I want to go and get all the 90s nostalgia stuff and create this same bar in New York City because you would make so much money. Insane amounts of money in a place like that in a big city like New York or Philly or Boston. Pretty much anywhere you put that place, you would just be rolling in cash. So
because think about it. I mean, almost every bar is kind of the same. Like they might have a little bit of a twist to it. There are some horror bars in Vegas, but like a 90s theme bar, again, it probably exists somewhere. I've never heard of it or seen it. That sounds like an absolutely, even like an 80s theme bar would be a good idea too, to go back in the day.
And I will say they had pizza there. I was shocked of how good the crust was on this pizza. It was really, really good. Now, the sauce left a little bit to be desired. It was definitely a jarred pizza sauce on there. Yeah. But the crust was so good. I was like, this could be in New York City. If you put actual tomato sauce on this thing, you would be rolling in it because it was really, really well done all the way around. And shout out to the Liberty High School Grenadier Band. They crushed it on all their performances. They performed in front of the Tower Bridge. They performed with over 1,800 people at the London Tattoo on Saturday night. And then they got to march down in front of Buckingham Palace on Sunday. Really great job by all the kids. The kids, they were hot. Some of the air conditioning in their rooms weren't working some of the nights, so they were going through it. They were basically rehearsing the whole time we were there, but they brought it at all their performances. And they were noticing. I was looking up London Facebook groups of like London tourist stuff, and everyone was raving about the kids from the high school who were marching and performing and all the different things. Just random people were thinking they were the real Coldstream Guard marching down the street. So
I saw the video, a few videos, and you could not tell the difference between that high school band and the top collegiate marching bands. They are that tight and that, I remember when I was in high school, the marching band wasn't that big. And when they would play, you're like, these guys are serious. These guys are deadly serious.
Yeah, when I played in band in school, my parents would always tell me that I sounded great. And then afterward, they would be like, I don't know if you want to play that in front of the family or anything else. But this group of kids are legit, and the arts program at the school district around here is out of control good, and just unbelievable week of performances. Really, really great time. So, but happy to be back here in the U.S. Finally got back on U.S. time after 3 or 4 days, and then you have July 4th in there, so it's just like just a whirlwind. I feel like I'm finally back to normal this week. So, but great time. But we're back here. I want to touch a little bit on the World Cup before, since we are talking about England and everything else there. Guys, any thoughts on, obviously USA had a disappointing match against Belgium, but overall I think they played pretty well for most of the tournament. But any thoughts on the US team or any of the other teams you've been seeing here throughout the tournament?
I got to tell you, I don't know about you guys, but I just can't get into soccer. I can't do it. I know people love it. I get it. I respect the sport. But even the U.S. game, and you guys are going to hate me for this, I actually turned it off. I turned on the Yankee game. I just can't sit there and watch a soccer game. I don't know what it is. Maybe I grew up just not watching the sport. But, obviously I'm rooting for the U.S. I was rooting for him. And then I'm like, all right, you know what? After Belgium scored the goal, Cam Schlittler was pitching. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to switch over to the Yankee game. But, yeah, I mean, it's I'm rooting for the logo. I was rooting for the logo, not necessarily the team. I couldn't name one player. I'm not going to pretend to. But Uncle Ted, did you watch the game or no? The whole game?
I watched a lot of it. And honestly, I can't blame you for turning it off. I mean, you actually turned from the soccer game to the Yankees, and you probably saw less scoring in the Yankees game than you did watching the soccer.
Actually, the Yankees won that game. Cam Schlittler, but because Cam Schlittler was pitching, that's why they won. But
amazingly, I've probably watched more soccer this season now than I've watched baseball. I was disappointed that the U.S. lost. Obviously, I was rooting for them. But as I said in the office today, everybody was like, oh, they played so crappy. Oh, they did this. People forget. Even when you look at a team like Belgium was ranked so much higher than we were. I mean, for us to get to this round was amazing. And had were able to win a game in this round, it would have almost been the equivalent of like the 1980 Miracle on Ice, because these European teams and South American teams are so far beyond us. I mean, this is their life. And, until we get guys like a star like Christian Pulisic, who's going to play the whole game. And I love Christian Pulisic, but he needed a break. You only have the World Cup every 4 years. Christian, tough it out. You know? So, but I thought it was a great run. I thought it was very interesting. Am I rooting for anybody now? I know I was rooting against France today. I think if I was to root for one team to win it, I think I would like to see Argentina win it with Messi. I think I would like to see that.
Yeah, I will say, as someone who watches probably more soccer than either of you two guys do, you really saw the difference in the competition in this round. You saw how well we played against Bosnia the week before, and then the competition really stepped up, and you knew that was going to happen. Even if you win that game, now you're playing Spain, who's going to be the number one team in the entire world, and who made Cristiano Ronaldo look like he was about 75 years old in that game against Portugal.
Yeah.
So you wanted to hopefully make it a competitive game against Belgium and maybe lose it late. But they just ran out of gas. I mean, they really they ran more than any other team. If you look at the mileage in terms of how much the team ran around the field, they ran almost double what some of the other teams have done. And some of that's inexperience. Some of that is some of the defensive players are not as skilled as some of the other places around the country, around the world, because a lot of our players, they want to score. It's America. We want to be the scorers. There's not really a lot of defensive guys. There are guys who grow up in all these other countries who are just going to be defensemen, and that's what they do. And you saw that our defense kind of broke down there against Belgium a couple of times. with some gaffes. But you got to be really happy with the way it's been. The way the country has really kind of embraced the whole World Cup in terms of, everyone's raving about all the different things going on around the country. All these bars are getting sold out by all these Europeans are coming over and drinking us out of every single thing, and really helping out some of the bars in all these cities. It's really been a great World Cup, and I'm excited for the ending here. In terms of who I'm rooting for, I was just over there. I gotta root for England. The stuff that they were saying in the bars, I certainly cannot repeat in a podcast, and some of the things I saw after they beat Mexico, I definitely cannot say in a podcast, but I'm really rooting for them. They haven't won in like 60 years, the World Cup, England, so I'm rooting for them to kind of break the malaise here and to win the cup, because that place is going to go insane for that.
You rooting for them can guarantee they're not going to win another World Cup this year.
No, they're going to get smoked against Norway on Saturday. So
I'm actually rooting for Norway too. I like the Norwegians.
Yeah, the rowing, they're showing up to all the different baseball stadiums and doing the rowing too. Yeah. I just love that all these groups are just going around to all different cool stuff around the United States. Like they're not just going to the World Cup games. They're like, let's go to Yankee Stadium. Let's go to Wrigley Field. Let's go to the Knicks parade. Let's go hang out and see what's going on around the country and really kind of enjoy the time off. It's nice when you have all this paid time off in Europe that you can just go and spend a month in America for the World Cup. So,
well, listen, this is their sport, right? This would be like the NFL, the Giants or the Jets or whoever. Name the team going over to, Ireland to compete against the Irish football. They don't have a team, but you know what I'm saying? Like that's their sport, man, right? So they almost deserve it more than us. I hate to say it because soccer's not really our sport. I know obviously there's some great players that came out of here, but at the end of the day, it's really more outside the U.S., which is why I noticed, I think if the U.S. hockey team lost to Canada, I think we would be depressed for like a week, like the entire country that are sports fans.
Yeah.
I noticed soccer, we moved on pretty quickly. Everybody was rooting for them, obviously, but I didn't find people being that upset about it. You know what I mean? Even though it was U.S., we're rooting for the country. But, the way I looked at it was when I found out the U.S. lost, I was like, whatever, that's not our sport. They should man up these other countries and play some NFL football. Then we'll see what happens, right? That was my crazy mindset. But, listen, I mean, the U.S., I watched part of the game. Listen, it's just they weren't that good that day, and it is what it is. But at least it's not our sport. That's my the caveat to losing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we will keep an eye on that. We'll keep rooting for our second teams. It's like the commercial with Will Ferrell, and as soon as your one team loses, you rip the jersey off, you put another jersey on, and you go for the next bandwagon. So that's what we're doing. So we're going to follow Will Ferrell's lead and throw another jersey on after U.S. loses. So, but let's get into some of the other U.S. sports that have been going on here, and it's been quite an eventful couple of weeks here for the New York baseball teams, and we'll certainly get into it. But they finally had a mercy killing in Queens. Mendoza gets let go. Finally, probably about a month too late in terms of saving the season, if you were going to try to save the season there. But Teddy, your thoughts on the Mendoza firing and, what you think is going to happen next?
I mean, listen, it wasn't his fault. He became a crappy manager because I think that he just realized at times he just didn't know what to do. How do I get out of this? And it wasn't his fault. You can only play with the roster that they give you. But it was a mercy killing. The real coward in this whole thing is Steve Cohen. What he does is he says, I'm going to talk to the press. And what he does is he goes on a podcast with, a couple of, was it sports writers? I don't even know who the sports writers are. I don't know if it was Heyman and.
Yeah, it was Heyman and Joel something. Is it Joel Sherman? Yeah.
So because he knew there that they would not put his feet to the fire. You know, if you're going to address New York, you have to go on the fan.
Yeah, with Evan Roberts specifically.
Yep. Specifically with Evan. Yeah, exactly. And he wouldn't do that because he knew that they would press him. Hey, I'll say this. I guess I don't know. I'm not that smart, but I guess we couldn't use a first baseman who has 20 something home runs and 68 RBI.
Right, exactly. I know.
260 and no balls getting by him at first base. And that's what angers me.
Right.
That's what angers me.
Run prevention.
Run prevention, and then I've said this ad nauseum, and I can't say it again, but it really annoys me that this smiling jackass in David Stearns does, and he keeps grabbing guys off scrap heaps. We've gotten Seelinger from the Tigers for money. Okay, let's give up 7 runs in the 8th inning, Seelinger.
Yeah.
And then one of his friends calls up the fan and says, I think if that pitch that he didn't get would have gone over, it could have made a difference. Yeah, he would have given up only 6. So shut up, stupid.
Yeah.
I'm not even watching them. I can't. I just can't do it.
No, you can't. You're going to drive yourself nuts
right.
if you're watching that team right now.
My wife even said, "How could you even root for them?" Because of this. You see that?
Yeah. It's the front of the jersey.
It's the front of the jersey. But
You're in. You have to do it.
I will never forgive them. This current regime. I will never forgive them for dumping Pete Alonso. I will never forgive them for that. And that might be irrational at this point. But I will not forgive them for that. I will not. I'm sorry. I can't.
Well, listen, I think you said it right, Uncle Ted. He became a bad manager, Mendoza. He wasn't a bad manager for pretty much his whole time here, except for the collapse last year. But even during the collapse last year, he can't swing for people. I say the same thing about Aaron Boone. He can't go up and bat for Austin Wells. But look, this is a Stearns problem at the end of the day. And unfortunately for Mendoza, he has to take the hit.
Yep.
Now, Mendoza, I think, actually feels really good right now that he's out of this.
Sure.
It just wasn't working. Obviously, nobody wants to lose their job, but I think Mendoza proved enough to where I don't think he'll get a managerial job necessarily right away, but he'll become a coach somewhere, maybe a bench coach or whatever, and eventually become a manager again. So I think this was a blessing in disguise for him, and I think he knows it deep down. He can now enjoy his family for the summer.
Yeah.
He's still getting paid. The mortgage is still getting paid. He's going to be fine. But I don't know. I know, Mike, you mentioned that maybe it was a little too late. You may be right, but I don't know if the manager would have made a difference no matter who it is. It's not the NFL, right? It's not the NBA even. These guys just weren't playing well. I really, and again, I don't watch every Met game, so I can't be sure about this, but I would assume that it wasn't the Mendoza decisions that put the Mets in this position. It was guys not playing to the back of their baseball cards, right? So it probably should have happened earlier for Mendoza's sake, and maybe for people like you, Uncle Teddy, and the Met fans' sake, to just say, okay, at least we're doing something. And that's the first thing I thought about, guys, when they fired Mendoza. I'm like, okay, they made a move. Is it going to work? Probably not. But at least they did something to make a change, But like I said, I think it's a win for Mendoza too. He can now move on and, he'll go somewhere else and probably have success somewhere else if we have a season next year.
Right.
Yeah, who knows?
And I think the biggest thing you could take away from this is with Stearns is he's learning this very quickly, that just because you have guys who can analytics tells you are going to be really good and they come in here, this is not Milwaukee. This is New York City. This is New York. This is the pressure cooker of all towns when it comes to that. And to just discard a guy who plays well in New York because and loves New York City and can deal with the pressure and to be able to hit in the clutch and to handle everything that New York throws at him.
Plays every day.
And to just discard that to the side is crazy. And then to bring in guys who have honestly just pooped the bed when they've gotten here, like Bo Bichette, who's really just was pressing too hard. New York City got to him. He's starting to come around a little bit, but at this point, it's way too late for him to salvage a season at this point. But to think about guys who can play in New York and to just cast them away is he's learning that lesson very hard, that you just can't bring in guys here and think they're going to play well like they did in Milwaukee or Detroit or Toronto and then come in here in New York and try to do the same thing. It's just not the same.
Yeah.
And forget about this year too. Look at the moves he made at the deadline last year. I mean, look at he gave up guys for Cedric Mullins.
Right. Now, Luis Robert.
Now, I was not a huge fan of the guys that they gave up for Peralta or for Luis Robert. But he actually took every bit of our farm system and stripped it. And completely stripped our farm system.
And even Cohen said that. He said that the farm system has regressed and that, they're well behind of what their initial plan was when it comes to everything.
With nothing to show for it. Nothing. And honestly, if you're being honest as a Mets fan, at this trade deadline, you really should move Bichette. You should try to move Lindor. You should try to move Polanco if anybody would take him. Beatty and Vientos and a bag of balls should go anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, the only guys on this team worth keeping right now. Oh, and Luke Weaver, and I love Luke Weaver. But he's one of the guys that you can get something for.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
But I mean, I just Benj and Ewing and McLean are the three guys that are untouchable to me.
They're untouchable. 100%.
Everybody else can go. I don't care.
Yeah. Mike, you brought up a really good point about Alonso. Like, it's not about the fact that he's a good player. Let's put that aside. We know he's a good player, but he wanted to be here. He succeeds in New York. And I remember, I forget the guy's name. He was a terrible owner for the Nets. It was the Russian guy.
Mikhail Prokhorov.
Prokhorov. I remember when he was trying to rebuild the team, as bad of an owner as he was, he said he doesn't only want guys that can play, he wants guys that can play here. And that is a vetting process when you're a GM or a coach. Like, can you play in New York? Do you have the personality to thrive here? Now, a lot of times you don't know that until they actually, step foot on the field or the court, right? But with Alonso, you've had years of experience with him knowing not only, like, can he play here, but he actually, like, he wants to be here. He wanted the bright lights in the big city. So that was mistake number one. And then, you guys pretty much nailed the rest. It's just the team is an absolute mess right now. And yes, I do blame Cohen. And you're right up with Teddy. He's such a coward. He really is. He goes running and hiding for months. He's a big mouth in the beginning of the year. And now his appearance is on a soft landing, nice little bird's nest for him, staying away from the tough questions. I didn't even listen to the whole interview. I'm like, this is basically a role play, pretty much,
How about what he did 2 weeks ago? Somebody tweeted or put it on Instagram that why would I go see the Mets and spend all this money and then on top of that spend $50 for parking? And his tweet response was, buy a season ticket package and we'll discount it to $40. How deaf are you to the fans?
Yeah.
Holy good God.
Yeah, he's unbearable, honestly. He really is. It's crazy.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Well.
Yep. Well, we will move on from the Mets here and talk about the other team that's kind of been in a June swoon that they normally get into here, and that's the team across town, the New York Yankees. I mean, they are kind of in a rough spot here. Now, there are a lot of injuries that have really piled up for them that have really kind of led to this sort of malaise that they're in right now, but there are also some guys who are just in all-time slumps. I mean, Paul Goldschmidt, 0 for his last 35, I think, with like 17 or 18 strikeouts, and they're getting struck out 17 times, 2 games in a row against Tampa. Now, they did manage to salvage the split of the series today, and played really well to close out the series. But Jeff, I want to hear your thoughts on this Yankee team right now, where we are as we're getting close. We got 3 games left before the All-Star break, where we're going to end up, and then, what we think about this team going forward. So
yeah, typically with the Yankees, and you guys heard me say this last year when they had their June swoon, whatever they call it, right? I said that it's the Yankees and they're going to make the playoffs no matter what. I'm not even remotely concerned. They can lose 10 games in a row. Somehow they'll end up in either the wild card or win the division. I'm not so sure. And if you, not that Yankee fans ever doubted the value of Aaron Judge, but if you had any questions about the value of Aaron Judge, those questions are now washed. He is the most valuable asset in the league in terms of what team he plays on, right? I'm not going to say he's the best player. I think he is. That's arguable. But in terms of value and the importance of a player on a baseball team, he is by far number one. And you're right, Mike. The guys on this team right now, I mean, they are historically bad. And Austin Wells is the kingpin. I mean, his year is. I knew his numbers were bad. I looked at them today. I thought it was like stats from the beginning of June. I'm like, this can't be real. I'm like, this wasn't another month that went by, right? He is having an ungodly bad season. And then you look at the positions, man. Like I went through every position, and there's concerns almost everywhere. First base, listen, I'm not concerned about Ben Rice's slump. He'll be fine. In fact, he broke out of his slump.
Yeah.
Yep.
Second base, Jazz Chisholm. I'm so done with that guy. I never liked Jazz. I always thought he was too clownish. Like, he's not good enough to be that much of a clown. And then the lollipop was the final straw. I'm like, this guy's now eating a lollipop. Come on, I'm done. Volpe, you know my thoughts on him. I want him out, even though I like him. Third base, McMahon can field, but he can't hit. Catcher is one of the worst catchers in MLB history. And the outfield is kind of in shambles without Judge, with Bellinger being terrible. So the Yankees have a lot of issues. And I think Aaron Judge coming back, you'll not only get Aaron Judge, but you'll get guys playing better because I think his presence is important in that lineup. Guys get better pitches. The captain is back. The problem is, Mike, we got a long time till that guy comes back, man. Like he may not come back. I'm not going to say the rest of the year, but early September. That's another 4 to 6 weeks. They can't. Like, they got to have guys step up, man. And to me, it starts with Ben Rice and Cody Bellinger. Those two guys have to start playing better. But at least we got Schlittler, who looks great, and Fried's coming back. So I think, to answer your question, Mike, where do I think they'll be? I think they're not going to win the division without Judge, but I do think they'll still get the wild card. So I think they'll be in the playoffs still.
You know, the one thing about the Yankees, I agree, Jeff. I think that at worst they're going to be in the wild card. I still think if Judge comes back early enough, they'll win the division. A lot of the guys that you mentioned, it is time for them to step up. Now, I know Judge isn't there, but this is time when somebody needs to step up and be a leader and kind of take care of that. I'm disappointed in Bellinger, kind of not being that guy. But I will say this. My feelings about Volpe, I think this kid takes a lot of heat. And, you know, if you looked at his numbers in a vacuum and you compared them to shortstops around the league, you'd be surprised about how good his numbers are versus other shortstops around the league. How good his numbers are versus Francisco Lindor, guys like that. But what I'm saying about Volpe is everybody wants Volpe, and every time he comes up in a big spot and doesn't deliver, it's magnified because the guys who should be delivering are not delivering.
Yep.
And instead of screaming on WFAN that Bellinger's got to go or this guy's got to go, it's always Volpe. He's the whipping boy, and I think that's it's a little unfair.
If Volpe was and one more quick thing, Mike. If Volpe was buried in a good lineup, nobody would care. But when you have a shortstop for the Yankees, and we've given this guy a lot of years, a lot of chances, and he's a guy that we actually can get rid of, right? We can't get, there's other guys that are, they're owed money, can't get rid of them, right? It's going to be very hard to, at least, almost impossible. But Volpe, it's year after year. It's the same old. And they got to do something because he's not getting the job done. If, again, he was buried at the 8th spot, that's fine. But you can't have Anthony Volpe batting 5th. You can't.
But that's not his fault.
Right.
Here's another thing. At the end of last year, or in the offseason, if you had any real stones in your pants, Cashman, Steinbrenner, of wanting to win. You know who you should have got to play shortstop? Bo Bichette.
I wanted Bo Bichette, actually.
Bichette.
That was the guy I wanted.
And you know what? You could still get him now. And I'll tell you right now, you throw in Dominguez in some sort of a trade, I'll trade you Lindor and Bichette. You can have both of them. But I just think that complaining that Volpe's batting fifth and then people booing Volpe, boo management. Don't boo Volpe. You know, this guy just goes out and is trying to do the best he can.
Oh, I'm not doubting that. I know he's trying. That's why I said I like him.
Yeah.
But the reality is the reality, Uncle Ted. He's not any good.
Well,
that's the problem. He's just not good.
Well,
so, again, that's why I never knock him personally. I think he's actually a great guy.
100%.
But as far as a player, you can't have and he's not that good of a fielder. That's the other problem, too. He bobbles balls all the time. I don't know. I want it to work out. I want to give him another chance almost, right? But I can't do it. I cannot see Volpe for another year. It just they cannot do it.
You will see him for another year if they decide they don't want to spend money and they don't want to fix the problem. You're going to see him again. And I'll say this. You could see worse. Believe me, you could see worse. I'm telling you. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at a shortstop right now in Queens.
That's fair.
Who's sulking and he doesn't like anything. It finally came out that him and Soto hate each other.
Yeah.
You know, which we also surmised it, but now it came out for good. You know, I agree. And you know what? I'll tell you right now, I'd take Volpe on my team right now. I'd take him. I'd put him in
the
short.
One thing that I will say, and I agree with a lot of what you said, Ted, in terms of there's a lot of pressure on Volpe because of the position he plays and where he is in New York and everything else that goes on there. There's a lot going on, and especially being from the area and playing for your hometown team, a lot of it's in his head. And I think if he were to go down to the minors and to spend a little time in Scranton and get things back, the problem is you really don't have anybody else who can really play in that position right now. Caballero is got to play elsewhere because of the other deficiencies that are going on. You don't really have another guy who you can come up and play right now in the spot. So you have to deal with Volpe up here for the time being. So, you know, the good news for the Yankees is this American League is awful. There are only 4 teams above 500 in the entire American League. And the Yankees have the second best record, despite everything that's gone on, and despite the malaise that they've gone through over the last 2.5 weeks. They're still 10 games over 500, second best record in the American League, comfortably in the first wild card spot. So you're going to host whoever you're going to play there, because no one else in this American League is any good. I mean, you have the Chicago White Sox in first place in the American League Central right now.
That's crazy.
Which is just the craziest thing ever, that team somehow is now 47 and 45. If you would have told me that at the beginning of the year that at the All-Star break the Chicago White Sox were in first place, I would have said you are nuts. So that's the only thing working for them right now, is that they can fix a lot of the things, and I think that they're going to go out and make some deals here at the trade deadline, because this team, especially in this American League, there's nobody who scares you. Even Tampa doesn't scare you, I don't think. There's nobody there. There's no reason why you can't run through the playoffs here. There's not a Toronto team that's going to sit there and stare at you in the playoffs like they did last year. If you have to go to Tampa, where 90% of the people in there are going to be Yankee fans, and play a series there in the divisional round, bring it on. You know, I'm not scared of anyone that Tampa brings. And, you know, if the Yankees get healthy and get Judge back and get the pitching staff back pitching the way they're supposed to be, you know, with the amount of arms that they have, there's no reason why this team can't still get to where they want to be, which is in the World Series, probably playing the Dodgers again. And let's run this back one more time. So,
well, the problem is with the Yankees too. Everybody is slumping at the same time. So I don't want to say it looks worse than it is, because it looks as bad as it looks. It's as bad as it is, right? It's just it's terrible. But you're right. Like, there's really no major threat in the AL. I mean, like you said, even the Rays. I mean, Cedric Mullins is their cleanup hitter. Like, the Yankees are a better team than the Rays. but they're just all playing like absolute dog crap right now outside of, the obvious, like Cam Schlittler and,
Ben
Cole has been
Rice, yeah.
Ben Rice, who had a bad slump, but now he's out of it after that home run in the opening game against the Rays. And I was never concerned about Ben Rice, though. He's going to be a stud. He's going to be a superstar, that kid.
Mm-hmm.
But Bellinger, I don't know, man. He's got to wake up. And I think Goldschmidt is 38 years old and ran into the ground at this point. He played so much with Stanton hurt. I think he might be, I don't want to say done for the year, but I don't think we're going to see what we saw in the beginning from Goldschmidt. I think the miles are already up,
It's crazy that he's like 0 for his last 35 and still batting like 250, which is crazy.
Yeah, because he was batting like 320.
How crazy the start he had versus where he's at now. So if we get somewhere a little bit better, that will certainly help us out from there.
Yeah.
So
Goldschmidt's a guy you keep on the bench and you bring him in every few days, batting against lefties. He's not an everyday player anymore, and we're seeing the consequences of it.
Yeah. So we are getting to the time of year where there's literally no sports going on. Next week, once this weekend ends up, and you have a full week where there's not a single sport that's in season. There's no football, there's no basketball, there's no baseball, there's no hockey.
Canadian Football League.
Canadian football, sure. But in this country, there's really nothing going on for that week. So this is where you get all of the pundits and the knuckleheads that come out of the woodwork and start going through things. And there are two things I want your thoughts on. One is this Michael Kay story about how Volpe didn't want to play second base. He comes out and he brings this whole thing up. And then he says, well, I don't know if it's true, but I'm going to say it on my radio show anyway. And then he has to come out the next day after he talked to two people and said, you're out of your mind thinking that this kid is not that person. And he's got to retract it the next day. So quick thoughts on Michael Kay and his nonsense here. I just think he should stick to calling the Yankee games at this point. He's not a talk show host. He wants to be. He desperately wants to be. But he's sitting here and he's got to make up stuff, which is just sad and pathetic at this point.
Yeah, this isn't just the pundit. This is Michael Kay, who is the voice of the Yankees. So
Correct.
anything he says is going to be ran with by every outlet, every social media platform, every newspaper, and every other medium that's out there right now. And for him to not even do the research on that, to make sure what he's saying is true, is absolutely absurd. And it just goes to show, like, he's a broadcast guy. I think he's good at it. He's very good at that job. But you got to make sure your facts are in order before you spread that kind of a statement or a rumor, because that causes it causes a distraction amongst the Yankees. People are already against Volpe. I hate to say it, including myself. But to say something like this and get the fans even more riled up about Volpe is so irresponsible of Michael Kay. Now, to be fair, he did come out and admit that he was wrong. He shouldn't have done it. But you're damn right. He shouldn't have done it unless he found out it was actually true. And not only was it like, it's not like it was words that were minced and it was just completely fabricated. He never said that. He was never asked to play second base. I mean, I'm assuming he called Volpe personally. I would assume he did, but he should if he didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing.
His problem is he wants not only to be the voice of the Yankees, but he wants desperately to be Mike Francesa.
100%. I was just going to say that.
He wants to be Mike. And
no doubt.
Whether you loved or hated Mike, and I was somewhere in the middle, you can't be the voice of the Yankees and then come out with something like that. And you know what his buffer is? That he never ever talks to these ball players, like during the game, before the game. Meredith Marakovitz does all of that.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Mets, I know what you're thinking, Mike. With the Mets, the Met announcers all do talk to the players still. So I can't see. And even if you knew that was true, think about what you're going to say as the voice of the Yankees. Do I want to be the voice of the Yankees and really piss people off, and especially one of my players? or do I want to be Mike Francesa? Because if you want to be Mike Francesa, then you run with it like he did. He's a clown. He is a clown.
He's
That's
getting
exactly
absolutely trounced in the ratings. The WFAN is running circles around all the people at ESPN New York.
Yep.
So they got to pull something out to do something.
Yeah.
And it ended up blowing up in his face, and it's terrible because Volpe even said, "I would have played catcher in the minors to get back to help this team if that's what we needed." And honestly, they might want him to play catcher at this point because it's got to be better than what they're bringing out there right now. But still, it's crazy that it was so quick, that it was such a fabricated story, and he had to retract it like less than 24 hours after he said it. He had to come out and say that it was wrong. So
and again, this isn't some random guy on Reddit. Michael K, I'm sure, has his sources.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He has people he can call. He doesn't have to just hear a story and say, all right, let me get some clicks and views. He doesn't need the clicks and views. You know, like he could have called people and found out, and he just was very irresponsible.
Wait, how about this? Show some balls and say it on the Yes broadcast.
Right.
How about that?
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. He would never.
Well, you did bring him up before, Teddy. I also want to get your thoughts on Francesa saying that he's got sources that Lindor is going to get traded, and the Mets are shopping him at this point. And, Francesa's still doing his thing. I listen to his podcast, every single one that comes on. I am locked in. I am still a Francesa stan. I will go and see him at Bar A if he shows up there whenever. So your thoughts on Francesa's sources, and, do you think that trade's going to happen?
The one thing I'll say about Francesa is, and like I said, I'm in the middle on Francesa. He's a terrible prognosticator. He picks the horses okay, but when he tells you a team is going to win, run the other way. But he does have sources, and he does have they have people in the trenches. And I also, Mike, have been listening to his podcast more recently, and he's right with a lot of the stuff he says, not only about the Mets, but the Yankees, and his stuff with the Knicks was right on. But I don't think they're going to trade Francisco Lindor, because I don't think in their mind they're going to get the value they deserve. Although at this point, again, as I said, I'd trade Volpe straight up, and I'd be happy to, and I'd even pay some of the contract. But I don't think they're going to trade him, but I think Mike is right. I think that they are looking for ways that if it can happen, they would trade him. Because remember, Stearns didn't sign him. And so, and honestly, at this point, Lindor can block the trade, but he really is playing his way out of New York by the way he's acting.
100%. And I don't think that, breaking news, whatever you want to call it, from Francesa is that shocking. The Mets are open for business. They should be open for business outside of the three guys you mentioned, Knucklehead. So I don't think it's crazy. The problem is Lindor is such a crybaby, shockingly, because I never thought he was. He's a very good actor. Like he's a really good. I don't think he's a bad guy, but he's a baby. Yeah. There was also another story that the reason why he was upset with Juan Soto, or Juan Soto was upset with Lindor, is because Lindor was the only player on the team that didn't reach out to Juan Soto to congratulate him on being a Met and welcome to the family or whatever. I believe that. He doesn't seem like a guy. So, but look, again, the Mets are open for business. To me, that's something I think we assumed and figured anyway. Like, it wouldn't be shocking if they traded Lindor, even if we didn't hear Mike's story. So, to me, it's not even a shock.
Yeah. Well, we will certainly keep an eye on that. Again, we have the All-Star break. We get to take a breath here in the middle of the baseball season, relax. I'm excited to see Ben Rice in the Home Run Derby. I know it's on Netflix, so I'm going to have to, finagle the TV to get watch the Home Run Derby this year, which is unfortunate. I love it on regular TV. I love it on ESPN, and I do love that they're going back to the regular outs format as opposed to you don't even get to see the home runs last year with the timer, and you didn't get to see the ball. That was the coolest part of the Home Run Derby, was when you saw McGuire and all these and Josh Hamilton hitting them in Yankee Stadium, and you saw the balls flying out of there. That was the coolest part of the Home Run Derby, when you're just swinging as many times as you can in in 60 seconds, you lose out on that admiring the home runs kind of thing. So, but we're looking forward to that. I do also want to touch. I know a lot of our fans have been clamoring for it here, especially down in your neck of the woods, Jeff. But we have quite a UFC card this weekend. I want to get your thoughts on the McGregor fight. Anything else you want to bring up on the UFC here? We had a great fight on the White House lawn a few weeks back, and they're just rolling right into McGregor. I'm surprised they didn't put McGregor on the White House card, but that's, a story for a different day. But your thoughts on the McGregor fights and anything else UFC related you want to bring up here?
So the reason why they didn't put McGregor on the White House card is because they didn't get gate money for the White House card. So Conor McGregor is a gate beast. Like you can upsell the tickets like crazy, right? So they wanted to wait until this week. But yeah, so I usually don't talk UFC, but we do have a lot of people that listen to the show that are fans, and this is the biggest fight of the year. The White House card pulled 7 million views on Paramount, 36 million globally, and this is going to crush it. There's something about Conor McGregor that brings everybody front and center to watch. It's not just his fighting, because he was good. He was actually very good. But he's got the personality, man. He's got that like Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather thing where my mom is probably going to watch it, But this is going to be a rough night at the office for Conor. He's been off for 5 years, and he's fighting Max Holloway. Most of you guys know who he is, but what Max Holloway does well is he wears the opponent down with high volume punching. So your cardio gets zapped, right? Coming back after 5 years, that cardio is not going to be anywhere near where it has to be for Conor. So I'm actually going to predict not just who wins, but exactly how the fight goes, like literally verbatim. So I think round one, Conor is going to have some success with Max. They're going to trade shots. He'll land a few. He'll be fine. Round two, Conor's going to start okay. Halfway through the round, he gets absolutely gassed out, and Max mauls him and finishes it in, I'm going to say, the late second round. I honestly think, and again, it's the fight business. You saw the fights in the White House, Mike. That guy, Gaethje, was not supposed to win, and he did win, so you never know. Conor can always land one. But cardio is real, man, and it's like any other sport. You get gassed out very quickly when you haven't done it for 5 years. The difference is you're in a fist fight.
Yep.
And it can end. It's going to end immediately. It's not like there's a clock where you can take breaks, right? So, but the card itself, I'm not going to go over every fight. Maybe I'll do a separate thing on Instagram or something if you guys want to hear that. But the card itself is going to be massive. I mean, I'm watching like the embedded on YouTube, the fight week. It is jam-packed. This thing is going to do like 40 to 45, maybe even 50 million views across the globe. It's massive. And again, this is a guy that hasn't fought in 5 years. And I think people are more interested now than they were 5 years ago. Like, how's he going to look coming back? I don't think it's going to be good. You can't take 5 years off of fighting and come back and win, most likely, but I don't know.
Not against Max Holloway, you can't do that.
Not against Holloway.
If you're going to fight some no-name guy and come back in and work your way back up, sure. But if you're going to fight Max Holloway on the main event of a card, that's quite a way to get back into the ring.
And dude, I'm watching, and I'll end it on this so we can get to your picks, Mike. I know we're running out of time here, but I'm watching Max Holloway this whole week. He looks so calm and relaxed, like he's not even nervous. Now, I don't think he'll bring any kind of like weakness into the octagon because of that. He'll fight him like it's the best Conor, but he knows what's going to happen here. Like, he sees the writing on the wall. Conor looks smaller. He lost a lot of muscle mass. He's just having fun. But yeah, we'll see what happens, man. But it's going to be a fun weekend, really fun weekend for the UFC.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to that Paddy the Baddy fight.
That guy's fun, man.
He is so much fun to watch.
He's fun, bro.
I wish I was in England to watch that fight because I'm sure those guys there are going to be just going berserk. But going to be a fun card. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure, like I said, all of our UFC fans listening to the podcast are excited for this card, and we'll definitely get your reaction as we see it. And next week when we come back on here, definitely want to get your thoughts on how everything went. But I do want to end it here when it comes to the Mikey Mush picks. I have absolutely been on fire here over the last couple of weeks. We had the Toronto Marlies winning the Calder Cup in a thrilling Game 7 that they came back and won that. We had the USA win their group. We had the 2 boxing matches in England. Both of those guys won. Edmondson won a division as an underdog, and then you had Garner win in a decision as well. So I am like the last 5 or 6-0 over the last couple of weeks here. So we're just rolling along here with Mikey Mush. Hopefully you've been riding me with some of these picks. We're going to go down under to Aussie rules football. It is over the weekend. These games are on Sunday morning at 1:15 a.m. or 2 a.m. So after you're done watching the UFC fights, just switch right over to Aussie rules football. I'm going to take the Melbourne Demons minus 41.5 points. Again, these lines are crazy. I just love these crazy
41.5 points?
41.5 points against the Richmond Tigers.
Jeez.
The other one is even crazier. So I'm going to take the Essendon Bombers plus 62.5. I mean, 62.5, it's way too many points. I have no idea how you score Aussie rules football, but I can't think of anything that's 62.5 point favorite. You can't take that to cover. So give me the Essendon Bombers plus 62.5 against the Brisbane Lions. I think Brisbane's really good. That's why they're 62.5 point favorites. But Mikey Mush's 2 picks, Aussie rules football. Let's enjoy it. I'm also going to take Paddy the Batty plus 120 in his fight just because I got to root for him. So
no, dude, Mike, that's, I know it's not a big, money maker. He's not a huge dog, but that's still a good bet because it's a tough fight for St. Denis. Yeah. Patty's good, man. Patty lost to Gaethje. That was his. Yep. And Gaethje's the champion right now. Patty's legit. I know people look at him as a clown. He could fight. Yeah. So I think he wins too. That's a good bet.
Yep. So, guys, this has been a lot of fun. We are excited that we're back at it here. We will catch up with everyone here soon. I'm sure, Jeff, you might go on Instagram after the UFC fights if you have some reaction there. We'll certainly be looking forward to that.
Yes.
Teddy, always a pleasure. Hopefully we can play some golf here soon. I know, Jeff, if you're coming up here, we got to get some golf on the schedule here. But everyone, please like, subscribe, tell a friend, tell your neighbors, tell everyone you know who loves sports and loves guys hanging out and talking about their lives here. Just have them take a listen to the podcast. I'm sure we have fun here. We hope everyone enjoys it, and we'll catch everybody soon. Have a great night.
Have a great weekend, guys.